We're live. Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches. I'm your host, as always, Coach Steve. Guys, we have another amazing episode for you guys today. It is the start of Week 13. We are about 2 weeks away from normal playoff contention, and it's exciting. And it's a big bye week, like we mentioned on our Monday show. So we have a lot of players to talk about. It almost seems like almost everyone is a start at this point, and the players you probably wouldn't consider a start have turned into more of that on the fence category. So we're going to get through all the games today, obviously besides Thursday Night Football, and we'll get us out of here in hopefully under an hour. So news-wise, I'm sorry, John. Welcome in.
You're good, man.
Welcome in, Coach John.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Another beautiful Thursday with my boy. I'm excited. It's crunch time. It's do or die. This is it. This is probably a lot of make or break weeks for people. So I'm glad the NFL set us up with some big bye weeks. Week 13. Thanks for that. So we will help set your lineups as best we can.
Absolutely. No Coach Ship today, but he will be back hopefully on Monday. So, all right, over to the fantasy news. Just a few things here. Players not practicing that you need to keep your eyes on. Obviously, Travis Etienne didn't practice today. Dallas Goedert. Trey McBride was a big one. Dalton Schultz, even though it's not Dalton Schultz, it's not spelled right. Demario Douglas, Hayden Hurst, Marquise Brown, Michael Wilson. A lot of players out for the Cardinals. Some players that were practicing. Tank Dell did practice today. I know there was reports saying that he didn't, but he did to some extent. T. Higgins looks like he's coming back this week. Zach Ertz was released from the Cardinals, so even more issues with these Cardinals team here. They're losing a lot of offensive players, even though Ertz was on IR the last few weeks. So the biggest probably news in terms of star players is Jonathan Taylor. Finger injury, tore a ligament in his thumb, forcing him not be able to hold on to the ball. And he's gotten surgery this past week here, likely out 2 to 3 weeks. Bailey Zappi might be starting for the Patriots. Joe Flacco might be starting for the Browns. NFL's already making some schedule switches.
Yep, my Pats got flexed. They got flexed out.
Patriots, Chiefs got flexed for the Seahawks Eagles game. So, yeah, you guys are that bad that you had to take Mahomes off prime time.
Crazy. Crazy.
Is there anything you want to mention in here, John? I mean, obviously, we know that we'll talk about Zach Moss obviously more when we get to the round sits, but anything you want to?
I think the two things that are pretty interesting to me, Zach Ertz being released. I don't know if he is out on waiver wires for you guys. If he's out there, someone might not want to hang on to him. You might not have IR spots, whatever it is. If he's out there, he's saying he wants to go to a contender, and a lot of rumblings are saying Baltimore. So if he does, that's super interesting for fantasy. I would be very interested with Zach Ertz. So he is worth the speculative ad. Tight ends are a wasteland outside of the top 6. So I think Zach Ertz is worth it. And then also the Jonathan Taylor news. I'm guarantee we will talk about this all off season in terms of paying a running back, yada, 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 all that. That's that aside. Just this year, if they don't win the next game or two and they're out of playoff contention, I don't see Jonathan Taylor coming back this year. So this is kind of a big one. So, if you're, a lot of people probably survived as long as they could not having Jonathan Taylor, but I'm not very hopeful that Jonathan Taylor comes back in 2 weeks, and if it's 3 weeks, then, now you're in like the first week of your playoffs. Are you going to start him coming off an injury? Like, I don't know. This is bad news.
Yeah, definitely not the best news, obviously. Obviously, those who own Zach Moss still, great. Obviously, love that for them. but we don't know what's going to happen with this whole Jonathan Taylor situation. We're hopeful he can be back here with us within the next few weeks. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But, we'll keep moving on, and we'll talk about some players, obviously, in this week. So let's get to week 13, guys. Week 13 starts us off with the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee, not Titans, but the Tennessee Titans. Mm-hmm. And the question of the game here, and again, this one's pretty easy. It's more of just of like, who do you prefer? Because more than likely, Zach Moss might be on a lot of people's benches. And he wasn't really in usable situations in the last few weeks. But now there's a situation where do you want to play Derrick Henry, who is coming off a great game, but has been not so great this year, or Zach Moss? When we saw him have the workload, he was fantastic. Yep. So if you had to choose between these two this week, who would you go after there, John?
I'm personally in the Zach Moss camp. I think Derrick Henry really has just, looks fine. I think the offense is a little bit broken, but Derrick Henry hasn't had that sort of top end speed that was one of his calling cards. Even though he's a big, powerful back, he could run away from guys. Kind of hasn't really had that much this year. And like you said, when Zach Moss had all the work, he looked unbelievable. He's scoring 25 points a week for fantasy. So I'm totally comfortable with Zach Moss. The Indianapolis Colts said they're not going to add any depth to the running back room. They're happy with Zach. So that means this dude's going to get everything he can handle. Tennessee matchup's not tremendous, but I don't. It's middle of the pack. I'm not scared of it. And it's a relatively high over-under because both defenses aren't spectacular. So there will be plenty of scoring opportunity. So I'm fine with Zach Moss.
Yeah, I think there's a real question that you could consider Zach Moss in this situation here. I know the Colts don't normally have a great defense, and Derrick Henry is the name of Derrick Henry does hold a lot of value, but Zach Moss has been fantastic when giving this workload this year. I mean, we saw it. I mean, he was putting up 20-plus fantasy points in plenty of games this year. We can't say that Derrick Henry has been that as consistent this year. Obviously, both the starts, I have him as starts. But if you're in that situation where, like, who do I start? I would rather take the better offense because he's going to do the exact same thing Derrick Henry. He's going to see a bunch of work, but the offense might move the ball a little bit better. So I might actually rank Zach Moss ahead of Derrick Henry this week, which I don't think many people would have ever thought that would ever be a serious situation. But it is. Exactly. Some other good starts, as I mentioned, both running backs, Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, are all pretty much locked in starts. You should be comfortable in them in your lineup. Sits, Will Levis, Gardner Minshew, 1 QB leagues. I really want to touch them. Superflex leagues, you're pushing it, but they might be forced to due to all the backups. Tajay Spears, don't really want to start him. He hasn't really done much. Pretty much all the Titan wide receivers and tight ends. The Colts tight ends, I don't really want anything to do with. Do you start DeAndre Hopkins this week?
I think you can, based on how many bye weeks you have. And you have a lot of sort of wide receiver options on these teams that are on bye weeks. So you could be in a situation where you have to start DeAndre Hopkins, but he's a low-end wide receiver 3 for me. I think we all kind of got duped that first week of Will Levis where we were like, oh, my God, DeAndre Hopkins has got a new breath of fresh air. And I don't know. I think that was just kind of a 1-week thing. So DeAndre Hopkins is fine. He'll see his typical 8, 9, 10 targets. You hope he catches all of them. I'm not psyched about starting him. I would much rather start Josh Downs or Michael Pittman over him.
Of course.
So that's kind of where I'm at with Hopkins.
No, I respect. I'm on the same page as you, honestly. I don't want to, but he's an okay flex play. Question from M. Manster, 23. Hey, guys, I'm in one of my leagues, must win to make the playoffs or I'm out. Need 2 starts this week. Nico Collins, Devin Singletary, Garrett Wilson, James Conner, half-point PPR.
Nico is definitely in there for me. I just think there's, especially out of all these names, he's got the most upside. And he's been relatively consistent. So I'm totally putting Nico in. And then to me, I think it comes down to, weirdly enough, it comes down to Garrett Wilson or Devin Singletary. And Devin Singletary would limit your overall team's upside because you have 2 players on one team, on one offense, and they obviously can't both score touchdowns on the same drive. So I weirdly lean Garrett Wilson, but my God, that is so terrible to say because you're going to have to deal with Tim Boyle. And so that stinks. That totally stinks. I don't know what's going on with James Conner. James Conner seems to not be himself right now. Michael Carter was getting a bunch of work. He's getting passing down work. So
I think that was more late game kind of.
Yeah, I just think James Conner to me James Conner is a really risky play. If he gets in the end zone, obviously you're very happy. He'll have a decent day. I just don't see a lot of, upside with James Conner. So for me, especially in a must win where you're trying to get as many points as possible, I would do a Nico Garrett Wilson. But you could make an argument. I wouldn't hate you if you did Nico and James Conner too.
Yeah. So the way I probably see it is that I really do like Devin Singletary as a start this week. He's been proven that he's been able to put up fantasy points for this Texans team. We saw that even with Dameon Pierce back, that Singletary is dominating this workload. So I think I feel pretty safe about him going up against one of the worst run defenses in football right now. And then it comes down to the wide receivers, half-point PPR. James Conner's not catching balls. If Tank Dell's out, I'd want to probably then start Nico. If Tank Dell plays, I might lean Garrett Wilson just on that. No, it's not pretty, but I want to trust that Garrett Wilson will at least see his 9+ targets a game. So he said, having a rough week. Josh Allen, Jed on bye, so it's rough right now. And he had a Baker this week.
It's I hear you. I'm starting Bailey Zappi and Tim Boyle in a super flex league. Everybody's dealing with some garbage right now. So I get it.
So Collins is fine. Like I agree with John. Collins is great. If you want to go Wilson or Singletary in that order, somewhere around there, I agree with that too. So I do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's just and you could double down on the Houston Texans. Hope that they put up a big number against the Broncos, but Broncos defense has been serviceable of late. So I think you're just limiting the team's overall upside when you have two players from the same offense. It's just it gets dicey.
He also mentioned real quick here. What's my screen at? He did mention that he's been debating Wilson and Singletary, but does the Atlanta matchup in the rain scare you away from Wilson?
Yeah, that you want to talk about a game that could be abysmal and low scoring. It's that Jets Falcons game. It could be. That could be a Patriots Giants game from this past week easily. So, yeah, I get why you might want to shy away from Garrett Wilson. It's not Tim Boyle's obviously not.
Texans.
Yeah. I guess maybe we just worked through it in our head. Start the Texans. Deal with having two guys from the same team, and just whatever. Hope that. One of those two guys will absolutely get a touchdown this week, and maybe both. So right. You'll be happy.
Right. Question from Jose: Mahomes or Dak Prescott this week? Obviously plays. Why can't I think of whom? Oh, the Packers, and obviously Dak plays tonight.
I'm Dak Prescott. I'm all in on Dak Prescott until further notice. Like, there's no reason to sit him. He looks unbelievable. The team's scoring points at an alarming rate. It's kind of my same take with CJ Stroud right now. I understand that, maybe in season long rankings or dynasty ranking, however you want to rank them, you might not have it that way. But if you're in a week to week, especially this time of year where you're just trying to win games, how do you get away from Dak Prescott right now? He's been the quarterback one in points per game. Like, you can't bench him. You don't overthink it. And CJ Stroud's another one. Like, he's just on fire. You just gotta ride this wave.
Agreed. Yeah, go Prescott for sure. All right, over to the next game here. Chargers Patriots. Question of the game: do we feel good starting Gerald Everett this week? He had a pretty good game last week, 4 for 40 and a touchdown. Short tight end week here. Are you okay starting Gerald Everett?
Yep, absolutely. I think that, they don't have a second option in this passing game. Jalen Guyton might come back, but it's a big if. And the Chargers are going to be able to do whatever the hell they want against the Patriots. So, I'm fine starting Gerald Everett. This is the type of, tight end. When you get to this level, you're just looking for guys who could get a touchdown, and Gerald Everett could easily get a touchdown. So I'm fine with it.
Right. Yeah. I like Gerald over too. I think it makes a lot of sense if you're in needy for tight end, good streaming tight end this week to kind of pick up and play. He should see a decent amount of work. Patriots, they're going to find a way to stop something, and it's probably going to they're going to try to do their best to stop Keenan Allen. So Gerald Everett might see an influx in targets there. Amster also said, I have Josh Downs too. I like could be a lot of upside for him. Yeah. If you have Josh Downs, I'm starting.
But I also have Zach Moss. So it's like 2 Texans or 2 Colts. Oh, I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
I'd
rather have the Texans. I
was going to say, I'd rather have 2 Texans than 2 Colts if that's helps at all.
Yeah. All right. Some other good starts in this game. Obviously, you have I can't talk today. Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Ramondre Stevenson, Keenan Allen. Those ones are pretty much automatic. You should be pretty confident about those in your lineup. Sits, it might be Mac Jones still, but Bailey Zappi, whoever plays quarterback for the Patriots, you just no matter how good the matchup may look, it's just too hard to trust them. Quentin Johnston, you just can't trust them in lineups right now. And basically, all the other New England receivers that we might consider, Juju Smith-Schuster is really the only one that would say is the other wide receivers. Let's see here. Demario Douglas, it would be a start if, he plays, but we'll have to wait and see about that. How do you feel about Zeke this week as a flex option?
Fine. I think you can flex them. The Patriots they're a disaster right now, but their ground game is still pretty effective. They scored like basically 0 points last week, and Ramondre was fine. So, they're going to have to rely on the ground game because they can't move the ball through the air right now. So, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott's a fine spot start with all these bye weeks going on. He'll get his 10 carries and figure something out.
Yeah. We already talked about Jalen Guyton. Could be a potential possibility thank you, Amster. He said we are clutch. Much appreciated.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Devontae Parker could definitely be an interesting option. Obviously, if Demario Douglas is out, because someone has to catch the ball there, and he did see a few targets in that game. Hunter Henry may be bouncing back. Could be potential there. Another borderline tight end to start with streaming option for fantasy this week. So
yeah, maybe. I would.
I'd start Gerald Everett over him. So
oh god, yeah. There's like 20. I would start Juwan Johnson over him. There's like 20 tight ends I'd start over Hunter Henry.
I respect it. Right, Lions Saints. Question the game: are we flexing Jameson Williams this week?
He's been getting more snaps. I think you can flex him. We've talked about it, sort of the past couple weeks. He's always a threat for a big play. I think the idea that he'll ever turn into this high ceiling 90% snap kid is probably out the window at this point in his career, but he's on a good offense and he's an electric player and they love taking downfield shots in general. Just Detroit in general loves doing it. And he seems to be the guy who's beneficiary of that. So yeah, I'm okay. The problem is I don't know who's healthy for New Orleans. So I don't know if New Orleans is going to be able to keep up scoring points. And so they might just run the ball all day with Montgomery and Gibbs. But still, you will still get a couple stabs downfield and you hope Jameson hits on one of them and you're fine. And then he's like the perfect player for a flex. He's, he could get you 2, he could get you 16. It's like, all right, I'll take that chance.
Yeah, no, I think you playing Jameson Williams is more like I need a big play potential there. Something's not going right. I need to hope that a big play comes from in this game. Again, he hasn't really had one. He's got 50 yards and 40 yards in the last 2 weeks, but you're hoping for a big play if you play him, and you might need to this week. So some other amazing starts, obviously, is Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery, Alvin Kamara, Amon St. Brown, Taysom Hill, I think, is just a good enough start based on this wide receiver situation, and Sam Laporta, automatic. You should be really comfortable those in your lineups. Jamal Williams is probably the only line I'd want to sit. I don't just really trust any production there. Do you prefer Carr or Goff this week?
I will go with Goff just because his weapons are healthier. That's where I'm leaning.
Makes sense. I kind of agree with that too. So, like I said, you already said Juwan Johnson's definitely a much better streaming option than some of the other guys we've mentioned. Depends on his health, though. The Saints wide receivers, if Rashad Rashid plays, He's a good flex option for sure this week. You have to assume that he's going to see an upload in targets. Outside of that, you're looking at guys like A.T. Perry, Lynn Bowden, Cookwood. I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
Keith Kirkwood.
Keith Cookwood. Thank you.
Keith Kirkwood. Yeah, it sounds like a fake name.
It does sound like a fake name. Those guys, outside of Rashid, I don't really want to start them. I don't really trust them in the offense here. Better for like dynasty deep man leagues if you're stuck on options there. So, and Albert says hello, Albert.
Hey, Albert.
All right. Over the Falcons Jets game, this should be a fun one here. Question of the game: is Drake London a flex option this week? Coming off a pretty decent game in Week 13.
I don't think so. A, because of weather, and B, because of the Jets, the matchup. The defense is pretty tough, and so I'm okay moving away from Drake London. He could easily have a 3 for 26 kind of game, and you're like, it's so useless, so useless.
Agreed. Yeah, I would prefer to stay away if I can. I mean, you saw 2 weeks ago, he had 3 catches for 36 yards. Like,
exactly.
That wasn't even a tough matchup. This is an elite matchup. Falcons, Jets allow the fewest fantasy points to wide receivers this year. So I would prefer to stay away from him if I could this week. Some good fielding starts you should feel confident in: Bijan, Robinson, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. That's about it in terms of feeling good enough that I should be fine with those guys. I'm sitting both quarterbacks: Desmond Ridder, Tim Boyle, Dalvin Cook, basically all the other Jets wide receivers. Jonas Smith has kind of regressed. Looks like he's starting to lose his job. He's out. You start Kyle Pitts?
No. I mean, if you're not starting Drake London, you don't really want to start Kyle Pitts. So
Gerald Everett or Kyle Pitts?
I would play Gerald Everett, to be honest.
Or Kyle Pitts?
That's a little tougher. I would probably... I mean, the name Kyle Pitts is just so fun to see in a lineup. No, I'm going to stick with my guns and say Juwan Johnson.
I respect it. Last 2 weeks, under 30 yards receiving the last 2 weeks. It's really hard to trust Kyle Pitts. Again, kind of has to be desperate in that situation. I think I'd probably start all those other guys over Pitts as well. Tyler Conklin, streaming option. Again, kind of like Pitts. I don't really trust it because of the quarterback situations there. But I think I could consider trusting him over Kyle Pitts just based on the way this Falcons offense is going. And Tyler Algier, I think, flexes in that flex conversation this week based on all the crazy 5 weeks this week. Yeah. All right.
Start your Jets defense if you got them.
You should definitely
fire them up. Fire the Jets.
Even the Falcons defense.
Even the Falcons fire Falcons defense up. Both of them. I mean, Jesse Bates had that like ridiculous 98-yard pick six last week. Yeah, I mean it's
fun stuff.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
All right. Over the next Cardinals, Pittsburgh, Steelers. Are you playing your Steelers wide receivers? Obviously, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens.
I would play him over any of Atlanta's options for sure. But the problem is
Garrett Wilson.
Maybe Deontay Johnson over Garrett Wilson. I don't know about Pickens. Pickens still just makes me nervous. I don't know. The Arizona Cardinals are a tough one because they're so easy to run on. And I do think they have 2 solid running backs in Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren that they might not. And Pat Freiermuth saw 12 targets this past week. So they might not need to use Pickens and Johnson very much, especially this week. So, Pickens with 5 targets and Johnson with 10 targets, those numbers aren't great. Johnson's always a big volume guy, and Pickens lately has been nothing. So I'm okay if you want to, get away from them. If I was to play one, it would be Johnson just because the security of the volume of targets.
Yeah, if I had to pick between the two, Johnson would still be my favorite pick. I think they're both decent flex options. Both had 50 yards this past week. Interesting to see how this offense does against even a worse matchup. And first time over like 300 yards or 400 yards in offense in like 3 years. Like obviously this new offensive scheme change has obviously helped, and hopefully it continues to build up both these wide receivers. We have a question in the chat from Eric. Zach Charbonnet tonight, or are we playing Adam Thielen or Chuba Hubbard on Sunday? Hubbard plays the Bucks. Thielen plays the Bucks as well.
Yep. I am.
Only play with
I want nothing to do with Carolina right now. I think they're.
even with the new potential change and
I
offense.
don't. It's what's interesting
400
is.
yards.
Well, yeah, exactly. What's interesting is there's changes that you can tell the players want, and then there's changes that like just happen because the owner wants it. And I think this Frank Reich move was a terrible decision by Tepper, and I don't think the players are going to respond well to that. To me, it's almost like you're just a rudderless ship right now. I don't think there's any structure. There's no culture in that locker room. There's nothing really exciting. Could Thielen see 13 targets? Sure. But I'm not banking on that. I do think that the Bucs defense is solid enough that they can give Bryce Young a hard time. So I get that it's a tough, really, really tough matchup against the Cowboys, and Thursday night is typically low scoring for fantasy. But I just am so sour with the Carolina situation and what's going to happen there over the coming weeks to end the season. So I would take my chances that, you get 10 points out of Charbonnet. That's your hope. Because I think Charbonnet could easily get you 10 points, 12 points. And I'm not expecting a big game, but Charbonnet will be somewhere in that 8 to 12 range. And it's, solid enough.
Yeah, I mean, he had 7 against even a tougher defense in the 49ers last week. Again, on the road, short week, players, defenses typically are more lenient, a little bit, obviously, allowing a little bit more potential runs, production. And Charbonnet is going to see 80% of the work.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a safer play that, like you said, can get you at that 10 to 12 range, maybe not any more than that. Thielen, it'd be the only one I would consider. And that's if he gets back that double-digit targets. But, if the offense is just continuing to struggle, even in a favorable matchup, it's really hard for me to start Thielen this week. And then even if you wanted to play him, there's upside there for sure, but it's a risky upside at this point.
This is a little bit of sort of narrative that is not based on anything, but in my history of watching teams who make a coaching change mid-season and are completely out of it, like their number one pick for sure, they start to really get young guys involved. Like we saw Jonathan Mingo get a lot of snaps, get targets, because they need to start evaluating what they have. They're looking to 2024. They know Adam Thielen is not part of the equation for 2024. So, that's part of it too, where I'm like, I don't see why the Carolina Panthers would target Adam Thielen 10 times. It just doesn't make sense.
All right. Yeah. All right, let's keep going here. Some other obviously good starts in this Cardinals Seahawks guy. Cardinals Steelers matchup here. Obviously, Kyler Murray. I think both Pittsburgh Steelers running backs are good enough starts in their own respective values. James Conner is a good enough start as a flex. Pat Freiermuth is a tight end. I think Greg Dolch is going to be a good start this week. Personally, I think as long as Hollywood Brown is out and Trey McBride is out, one of those two guys are out. Greg Dolch, even when they were playing, Greg Dolch has been on fire the last 2 weeks. He's got to be in the question right now as an automatic start right now, as a flex option at least, because we've seen him double-digit targets almost back-to-back weeks. Good production. Got to throw him out there. It's
crazy. He's a player that always, anytime his number's called, he seems to do all right. So I like Greg Dolch a lot.
Agreed. Yeah. Obviously, I don't really want to start Michael Carter. I don't think it's there yet, and him in that rotation. I think it's more, if anything, garbage time. But again, that's hard to trust. Bryce said he's got a spicy question. Right,
oh boy! That's where the Bryce.
Obviously, Trey McBride, Hollywood Brown would both be starts if they played, but I have them on the line because they're both questionable for this weekend here. But they both would be starts. Rondo Moore might be an interesting flex option if those both guys are out, because someone needs to catch the ball. Even Michael Wilson's might not even play in this game. So Kenny Pickett, any chance in the Superflex leagues you start Kenny Pickett or no?
Yeah, I think Superflex you absolutely can start Kenny Pickett. They kind of let him loose a little bit with Matt Canada gone. You are probably looking at players like Zappy and DTR and Tim Boyle, and I would take Kenny Pickett over any of those guys. You have a couple superstar quarterbacks on bye this week, so you're probably hurting. And I'm fine, totally fine with Kenny Pickett.
Agreed. Yeah, Kenny Pickett threw his most passing yards in a game this season, and threw the second most passing yards in Week 12 in his career. So that tells you
That's
how
fun.
bad Kenny Pickett has
Yeah.
been. But hopefully this is a trend in the right direction.
Yeah.
Next game here, Dolphins Commanders. Are you playing Curtis Samuel this week? Coming off a really good game, 9 for 99.
Yep. I think you can. I think Curtis Samuel is another one that is like weirdly always when he's healthy and moving. He obviously is part of this offense and tends to perform. So I think you're okay flexing Curtis Samuel. I would take him over a lot of other names that we brought up earlier. So yeah, I'm fine with Curtis Samuel.
Agreed. I think you should be pretty happy about Curtis Samuel as a play this week. Good flex option for sure. Obviously, some good starts here. You start Tua, you start Hill and Waddle, you start Raheem Mostert, you start Sam Howell, Brian Robinson. I think Terry McLaurin is just a good start, especially with these bye weeks. Logan Thomas is a tight end. All good starts. You don't start a Dolphins tight end. Let's be real. I have Devon A-Chain in the middle because we just don't know what his situation is. He may or may not play. If he plays, I mean, do you start him if he plays? Do you just start him?
I think you have to. Just because, again, there's not many guys, and I say this all the time when I talk about fantasy, is there's not many guys who can go out there and win you a week. Achane is one of those guys who can win you a week with 40 points. And so I think you take that risk. There's a risk that he doesn't get much work. There's absolutely that risk. I get that. But the upside is immense. And so I'm willing to gamble and play Achane in a flex. But if he's active, if he's healthy and the team kind of gives him the green light. But it is you take your Pepto-Bismol because you will have some heartburn for sure.
That is true. I think if you don't have the running backs to play, you just throw them in there and you got to hope for the best with A-Chain. I think his upside is just too big to sit unless you have for sure options ahead of him. Jake Lewis got a question for us in the chat here. Start 3 PPR, 2 RBs and a flex. We have Bijan, Tony Pollard, Monty, Mostert, and Zach Charbonnet. So give me the 2 running back. It's all running back. So
it's all running back. So I'm gonna go
your top 3 real quick.
Yeah, I'm Bijan, Monty, Mostert. Like I think that's pretty easy for me. The problem, Bijan has just got a tough matchup, but the usage has been awesome lately, so I'm okay. I think the talent wins out. David Montgomery, he's just a touchdown machine. He's kind of doing this, Jamal Williams impression, so I'm cool with David Montgomery. And then Mostert, obviously he's RB2 on the season, so you can't really sit him, and he's in a good matchup against the Commanders.
Agreed. I'd probably pick Bijan, Pollard, and Mostert. I think Pollard can get a couple touchdowns tonight. Okay. Seattle's been terrible against allowing touchdowns this year.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Pollard and Monty they were like I was going back and forth.
Yeah, so Bijan and Mostert for sure. You can make your pick with Pollard and Monty. I think both are great plays. You shouldn't have an issue with either one on Sunday, Jake. Right. Jahan Dotson, I think he can be a potential flex option as well. Again, probably a little bit more risky this week still. I mean, usually most week it's like, I don't really want to, but this week there's some upside with him. Antonio Gibson also is a flexible option, especially as I assume the Commanders will be behind, hopefully, in this game to force them to kind of throw the ball to their running backs. And we've seen Sam Howell be a touchdown reception thrower to running backs this season for the Commanders. So, All right, next game here, Broncos Texans. Do we start Javonte Williams or Devin Singletary?
That's a good question. I would play Singletary. I would stay in the flames of the Houston Texans right now. And they look good. They're scoring a lot of points. Broncos are winning games and they look better, but that's because the bar was so low for what the Broncos looked like at the beginning of the season and even last season. I'm okay. I'm okay riding Singletary, but Javonte Williams has established himself as the guy. Looks good, looks healthy. So you can start both for sure. But if I had to pick one over the other, I'm picking Singletary.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously I have them both in my start column, but I think I'd pick Singletary too. I think that the upside that he has against a very, very bad run defense offers me the more upside play than what Javonte offers. He's solid, but I think Devin Singletary's upside in this game is something I really want to have in lineups this week. Some other good starts: C.J. Stroud, Devin Singletary, Javonte Williams, Nico Collins, Cortland Sutton. You should all be pretty fine with those players in your lineup. Sitting, I don't want to say this because I feel like this is a weird, like, this would be the weird, like, oh, let Dameon Pierce just eat on the ground. I hope that doesn't happen, obviously. But this would be that weird game, but I would want to sit him. I'm not trusting his usage in the lineup. Jerry Jeudy has been terrible. I don't want to trust him. Obviously, we don't trust Adam Trotman. We don't really trust Bob Woods, even if Tank Dell misses still. Jalen McLaughlin is just basically falling out of rotation. Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz I put there because their injury situation don't know.
Sure.
But if they play, they're automatic starts. I think Bevin Jordan becomes somewhat of a sleeper tight end option if Dalton Schultz were to miss. Are you comfortable with Russ in a 1 QB league?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. I think the Denver Broncos are going to have to throw to keep up with the Texans, and Russell Wilson has been better as of late. So yeah, I'm okay with Russ in a 1 quarterback. He'll be, sort of like a low end, high end 2, kind of quarterback 14-ish, and if I had to guess at the end of the week, but still good enough to kind of help you through a bye week.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, I think he's I don't know. I would prefer to like Derek Carr personally over him, but maybe not. Nah, I would be okay with Russell Wilson. He's fine in this matchup here. I'm okay with him as a play. Samaje Perine, more of like full point PPR leagues if they fall behind. I don't think Denver will fall behind as much. So I don't think Perine is a great start. And if Noah Brown plays, you could consider him, but we haven't seen all 4 of these wide receivers on the field together. So not really sure what to expect if Noah Brown does play in this matchup. So, all right, over to the next game here. The Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is Chris Godwin a good flex play this week, John?
He's not. He's actually, in my mind, not really. I don't think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to need to do much to beat the Carolina Panthers. Chris Godwin hasn't scored a touchdown in what feels like forever. He has 1 this year, but he's getting a lot of snaps and targets and looks, but it's just not equating to much for fantasy. So, if you need, I get it. Like, I'm starting him over probably Jonathan Mingo, but like, I don't know. I just think that there's better options out there if you need a decent game. I mean, Chris Godwin is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 8 points. So those guys are okay. The name value will always kind of prop him up higher in your mind, but they don't help. They just don't. Like, it's, I'd rather take my shot with, if Tank Dell doesn't play, I would much rather take my shot with Noah Brown, than Chris Godwin. So that's kind of where I'm at with Chris Godwin. Fine, name values is going to be there, but I'm in, like, Greg Dortch, I would play over Chris Godwin. Like, stuff like that. Like, that's where I'm at.
No, I agree with you on that. I like that. I'm not really a big fan of starting Chris Godwin this week if I don't have to. Here's the spicy question from Bryce in the chat. We had this one actually already. Dak or Mahomes? We both said Dak Prescott. You just ride the hot wave with Dak right now. You have to. And then we have a flex question here. PPR, Deontay Johnson or Adam Thielen?
This is spicy in regards of, like, giving me a stomach ache. I would start.
Maybe that's what he meant. Maybe that's
what he meant. It's spicy, like eating spicy food. I would start Deontay Johnson. Like I said, I just don't think I don't like anything that's going on in Carolina right now. I don't want anything to do with them. I could see them really struggling to move the ball. And like I also said, this is narrative, but it's comes from 20 plus years of watching the NFL. I just think that once you make a change at head coach, you're looking 100% towards the future. So they're going to start targeting, Mingo and younger guys, and
right,
because Thielen's gone at the end of the year, they don't care.
Yeah, I'll pick Deontay. I'm going to pick Deontay Johnson as well. So, all right. So back to the starts. It's not Rashad Penny. It's supposed to be Rashad White. But it says Rashad Penny.
I love Rashad Penny. Don't get my hopes up.
The autocorrector from Rashard White to Rashad Penny is real. Mike Evans, and I think Cade Otton in terms of the tight end position this week are all good starts this week overall. I'm sitting Bryce Young. I'm sitting Miles Sanders. I'm sitting any Carolina tight end. I'm sitting DJ Shark. I think you already talked. Is Mingo a flex option for you this week then?
Out of all the Carolina Panthers wide receivers, he would be the only one I would possibly consider, and it would have to be pretty desperate. But I would consider, and he's the only one.
I respect it. Yeah, I think that would be more of a desperate flex option this week. I still don't think Adam Thielen as a flex option. I'm hoping there's a bounce back. Risky, but I'm hoping there's a bounce back. Chuba Hubbard, it's a tough defense. I'm really not unless he catches a bunch of passes, he's kind of like a more of a barely borderline flex.
Miles Sanders is getting worked back into the rotation again. They're cannibalizing each other. It just is. It feels bad. You just don't really want it.
Yeah, and then Baker is a decent QB2 that you could start over. Basically, he's probably like QB 15 for me right now this week. So he's a decent play.
So here's a question for you: Russell Wilson or Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, that's
that's kind of like that's.
I think I have Russell Wilson still higher, but it's close. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. Next game: Cleveland Browns and the Los Angeles Rams. Question of the game: just play Cooper Kupp.
No. I mean, you can obviously you can play Cooper Kupp, but it's not in my mind, it's not a set it and forget it. There's other options like if Tank Dell is playing and you have Tank Dell or Cooper Kupp, I'm taking Tank Dell. I think the Cleveland Browns matchup is really hard. I clearly think he's got some health issues still going. I think obviously you can play Cooper Kupp. He's a great player. He's a fantasy stud when healthy, but it's not as locked and loaded as it's been in the past.
Yeah, I don't think either Cooper Kupp or Puka Anuka are at this moment automatic must starts. I think you can start them. Absolutely. You can absolutely play them in lineups, but you're right, John, if there's a better option that you see out there, better matchup, you might consider going that direction. I mean, both these guys, for the most part, Puka has been under 10 fantasy points in 4 of the last 6 games. Cooper Kupp has been under 10 fantasy points in 6 straight games. There's a question at this point, decided minus the name value now, you have to change your situation a little bit. And that's where Cooper Kupp and Puka are. They're more of that, I have to have a conversation now than they're not in my automatic starts anymore. So, but good plays, both of them, you can play them. Mm-hmm. Jerome Ford, Kerryon Williams. I know I put Elijah Moore twice, but if Joe Flacco plays, I really want to play Elijah Moore in this matchup here. And David and Njoku, I think they're pretty much start him and forget him. Maybe not Elijah Moore as much, but I had some high hopes. Obviously, I switched him to the other one, but I didn't take him out of the other one. I'm sitting Joe Flacco, Dorian Thompson-Robinson if he plays. Royce Freeman. I'm not buying the 2 touchdowns from Tyler Higbee as a return thing. Cleveland's really good at tight ends. George Play has a question. Jalen Warren or Zach Charbonnet for flex non-PPR? Non-PPR? Ooh.
Ooh, man.
That is a tough one.
Man. I think that I'm going to go with the better matchup in Arizona and take Jalen Warren. But he gotta, Charbonnet feels safer because he's going to get a majority of the work. But I still think 50% of the work against Arizona is worth more to me.
Yeah, I think everyone has a sour taste in their mouth because everyone's like, oh, let's start Jalen Warren in week 12, and then he disappointed. I think I would give Warren another shot at home. Great matchup. Then taking on, because Charbonnet, there's a chance for a touchdown, but it's really unlikely. And if it was flex, if it was half point PPR, I probably would lean Charbonnet in that notion there because I think he's going to see enough work. But I think the Seahawks fall behind and Cowboys just kind of run them down, and Charbonnet is only going to see 9 carries at the end of the day, where Warren could use 9 carries, but he might have 90 yards on 9 carries. Charbonnet, I don't think he will. All right, next question from Sam was Black. RB1, Dave Montgomery. RB2, Najee Harris. Flex DeAndre Swift, but I have Joe Mixon on my bench. Should I bench him or replace him with somebody? You bench him. They play the Jags.
Yeah, I'm okay benching Joe Mixon this week, but over those three guys, I would have, Swift, Harris, Montgomery. I'd start all three of them over Mixon.
Agreed. Let's see here. Do you play Kareem Hunt this week?
No, because I don't know what this Browns offense is going to look like. I really don't. Jerome Ford, I think you can, because Jerome Ford, even on a bad week, is going to still get, 12 carries, 13 carries. Kareem Hunt, it's sparing when they use him. It's not always red zone work. It's I just think if the Browns were, had Deshaun Watson and we're looking good, then yeah, you could start Kareem Hunt. But they could potentially be starting Joe Flacco off the couch. I don't really want to go too deep into the Browns, arsenal for points.
Right, agreed. Yeah, I don't really want to either, especially if Joe Flacco plays. I think they might try to be a little pass heavy, and Kareem Hunt can kind of fall out of favor there. I think Amari Cooper with his health right now is very questionable. I think you could consider just sitting him this week and kind of leaning in a different direction. Just concerns with him overall. And Matthew Stafford, I think he falls back to what he was, 200 yards and a touchdown kind of player. I'm not buying the 4 touchdowns. Low end QB2, okay for Superflex leagues, is a safe floor, but not trustable in 1 QB leagues. All right, this game, I don't have a good question for this game because there's really no one here.
This is a great question. What are you talking about? This is a great. It's a very important
great question, but not
it's an important question.
Not good for fantasy.
No, not good for fantasy.
Who wins? 49ers or Eagles?
I'm gonna say the Eagles. But I think this is gonna be a bloodbath of a game. This is gonna be an awesome game. This might be my favorite game of the weekend. I love the 49ers. I love what's kind of going on. Brock Purdy has kind of come back to earth a little bit of late, and the Eagles have done the opposite. They've been just everything Jalen Hurts seems to do is the right thing. So I'm going to lean that the Philadelphia Eagles continue to kind of keep getting the bounce of the ball, keep getting that little bit of luck that they need, and they win this game. But it's going to be a great, great game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean the Eagles as well. I think both two very superb teams. Obviously, I'm going to lean to the team that is at home. I think they're just overall the more complete team. The quarterback I trust more is Hurts than Purdy. So, all right. So for fantasy, guys, you start basically everyone here. I mean, you start Hurts. I think Purdy's a good start. CMC, Swift, Brown, Smith, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. They're all good starts. I mean, you would be crazy to sit them in this high-scoring matchup. I could – don't really see the backups playing Kenny Gainwell, Mitchell, Julio, Juwan Jennings, anything like that. Dallas Goedert, if he plays, you could consider him, but I think he will be out another week. So, question in the chat from Albert: crazy to start Zach Moss over Austin Eckler?
Not crazy at all.
No,
not crazy at all. I don't think it's crazy at all because I don't think it's crazy at all. I don't know what's Zach Moss, when he's got the job to himself, has looked great. Eckler hasn't looked himself in the past couple weeks, and they're playing the Patriots. It could be a low-scoring sort of slug fest of a terrible game. I don't see a world where Eckler has a blow-up performance. He hasn't had very many breakaway runs. He's fumbled of late. I'm okay, go with Zach Moss. I know it feels weird, and it's again, it sounds crazy, but at this point in the season, you have to sometimes take name value out of these equations because you're just trying to get the win this week. Right. If you were in a DFS lineup and you had Zach Moss or Austin Eckler, you'd probably pick Zach Moss. So, in season long, I get that you're not doing that. It's a different sort of mentality, but you just got to win this week and try and advance to the playoffs. I'm totally fine with Zach Moss.
Yeah, I agree too. I'm okay with starting Zach Moss over Austin Eckler. I don't think it's unheard of at this point. I think if you believe in the matchup and what Zach Moss was doing, and I do believe that personally, that he could be a better start over Eckler this week. Now, is it hard to set Eckler? Sure. It is hard. I'd love to still start Eckler if I could. But it's not like I don't like Eckler at all this week. He's fine, but like I do like the matchup for Zach Moss. He does have the workload to himself, and he's obviously being used in the offense more than what Eckler has been showing us, especially over the last 2 weeks now. So I agree with it. And he's come with the last 2 weeks too, which is weird.
Yeah, the answer could be try and get both guys in your lineup because the Patriots are bad against the run as well. But I think if you had to go one or the other, I'm okay with Zach Moss.
Agreed. Question in the chat from Ray. He's got Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. He wants to know who to start. Obviously, Dak Prescott has been on fire. His opponent has Lamb, and he's scared of the 49ers defense. And he says Dak at home has 18 total touchdowns since week 8. Amazing. Wow. So I'm stuck. So do you go with the superstar Jalen Hurts, who's been obviously amazing this season in a tough matchup, but he's at home? Or do you go Dak Prescott and just continue to ride the hot hand in a favorable matchup at home?
So he put in a very interesting caveat in that question, and it changes my answer. He has CeeDee Lamb. His opponent has CeeDee Lamb. So I would be playing Dak Prescott to mitigate the CeeDee Lamb a little bit. Because if CeeDee Lamb has a big game, then that means Dak is having a big game. So you can at least kind of keep pace with that. If CeeDee Lamb has a big game and then Jalen Hurts goes out and has a tough one against San Francisco, now that's a huge swing. Now you're totally screwed. So you could have Dak could still have a big game and CeeDee could, have an average pedestrian game. Happens. But, CeeDee's not doing well without Dak doing well. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's, to me, the difference maker in that equation where I would be playing Dak in that situation because they're both top 3 options, Hurts or Dak. They're both unbelievable. So it's kind of now you get to like the gamesmanship of fantasy football. So that's how I would game it where I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of mitigate your CeeDee Lamb a little bit by starting Dak.
Right, and Dak has a decent matchup. It's not like his matchup was bad. He's got a good matchup. So, take that shot with Dak this week. He's been on fire. He shouldn't get you anything less than 20 fantasy points this week.
Right. I hope all the touchdowns go to Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, or he runs them in, or maybe
Tony Pollard.
He runs maybe Tony Pollard scores a couple.
Screen game to Tony Pollard, whatever.
It's not crazy to think that Dak Prescott is a better play this week than Jalen Hurts. I think they're both obviously good starts, obviously because Jalen Hurts is just Jalen Hurts, and he will find ways to score. But Dak has a good matchup, and he's been honestly on fire. I mean, it's only one game it was bad, which was still 20 fantasy points. So yeah, I'm still gonna start. I'd start Dak Prescott. I'm okay with Dak tonight.
Way to rub it in. I have DTR, Tim Boyle, Haley Zappi. Way to rub it in that you have 2 amazing quarterbacks.
All right, over to the next question here. Chiefs, Packers. Are we comfortable with the Green Bay receivers in this game? And I'm talking Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed.
I mean, comfortable. I'm not comfortable with it. I think the Kansas City Chiefs defense is legit. I think they're really good at getting after the quarterback. I think they're going to rush Jordan Love through his progressions. So it's going to be a hard game, but they're all pretty good. It's a good wide receiver core. I think, Green Bay is probably, in my opinion, a solid offensive line away and a good run game away from being a really good offense. They have all the weapons at wide receiver. They just lost their tight end for the year, but when he's back, they'll be solid there. And Jordan Love is proficient enough that you could start any of these guys, but I'm not comfortable with it. Not comfortable with it at all. But I'll say this: I would start any of them over, Chris Godwin. I'd start any of these 3 guys over Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I absolutely would too. I think I would rank them somewhat like Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson.
Yep.
I'm less confident in Christian Watson. I don't care that he had a big game last week. Outside wide receivers do normally not do well against the Kansas City Chiefs secondary. So the guys who play more in that middle area, which is Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed, definitely Jaden Reed, who plays the slot. I feel much more comfortable about them this week playing in matchups. We have a question from, let's see. Hey, guys, Reed or Jones come back this week?
So I'm assuming Aaron Jones. Yeah, didn't practice again today, and that's Thursday. So, not not all clear yet. I would play Jaden Reed over a very questionable Aaron Jones.
He also says, if that's the case, do I start Brandon Cooks in the flex?
I mean, Brandon Cooks is a great option. Brandon Cooks is a good Brandon Cooks is a sneaky good option. I think it's weird because it's Thursday night and older player, but he's performed the past 3 out of the past 5 weeks, and so I'm okay with taking the risk with Brandon Cooks. I would be, if I had to pick those three, I would probably take my chance with Brandon Cooks, and then Jaden Reed, and then Aaron Jones, break glass in case of emergency.
Understand. I think I'm still starting Jaden Reed. He's just been too good lately, and then Brandon Cooks, and then Aaron Jones at the end. And then he said, should he start the Dallas or Colts defense?
I would start the Cowboys defense. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Geno Smith right now, but he's turnover prone. The Seahawks don't look great. Thursday night, usually low scoring. So and the Cowboys defense is elite. So I'm fine with that.
Seattle's offense does not scare me right now. So get them out there. What are y'all thinking? Charbonnet or Lockett at the flex tonight? 5 weeks messed me up bad.
You and me both, brother. Charbonnet. Charbonnet is a much safer option. Both not the best. I'll be honest with you. But I would take the guaranteed work of Charbonnet. Lockett is just, again, it's a Geno Smith problem.
Yeah, I think I would as well. I think I would take Zach Charbonnet. The usage that he's going to get, whether it's on the ground or in the passing game, is enough for me to trust him as a good flex option. Lockett, he would probably need to play in the slot a lot more for me to trust him, but he doesn't. That's Jackson Smith and Jigba's job now. So his matchup is very boom or bust. Yeah, if you start him and you got like 3 points at the end of the night, I fully accept it. If not, you could have 15, 20, but I would take Zach Charbonnet for sure. And thanks for the sub. We appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I think you're right with Lockett being a boomer bust guy, but I don't see a boom game against the Cowboys.
Yeah. How do you feel about these trades? Full point PPR, 12-man, Puka, Nuka, Kamara, DJ Moore for Amon St. Brown, Cooks, and DeAndre Swift. I'm assuming James Cook. No, Cooks, Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks, yeah. Brandon Cooks and DeAndre Swift. I
love it.
Nico and Pitts for Waddle and Njoku. Yeah, I mean these are all good. Yeah, I mean you
for one.
Yeah, you sold high on Puka. The DJ Moore is
over Amron though. I mean you want Amron.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. You're basically trading DJ Moore for Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's fine.
Yeah, I like it. And then Nico Collins and Pitts for Waddle and Njoku. Yeah, I love
that one. I like a lot too.
Love that one.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, got a great schedule down the stretch.
Yeah, good trade.
Good trades overall. All right, back to this game here. Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Kelce, all good starts this week. Probably don't want to start anyone in the Packers backfield. I don't know if AJ Dillon played today. I did not see that yet.
He practiced. Yeah, he practiced.
That's what I meant.
He came back.
Yeah, again, he's just not someone I really want to trust. Tucker Kraft. No, most of the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers I don't want to play in this matchup. Packers do have a really good secondary. I think Jordan Love's a decent QB1 this week. He's proven that he's been efficient enough, so I'm okay with that. You okay with Rishi Rice?
Yep, I think I am. Given the bye weeks, given some of the other names we've brought up as potential starts, I'm totally fine starting Rishi Rice.
Yeah. Another question: Charbonnet or Chuba Hubbard?
Man, a lot of Charbonnet. I would again. And this is probably biased, but I am out on the Panthers, so I'm okay with Charbonnet at this point.
Agreed. I am going with Charbonnet too. I trust the workload. He's going to have the full workload to himself compared to Herbert, who's going to split in a tough matchup. So, yeah. Reckon said he's 7th place right now.
Fields, Stafford, Mixon, Jones, Swift, Jay Jettis, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Njoku, likely Waller. How do you guys think? I'm trying really hard to win these next two weeks.
The running back's a little sketchy if Aaron Jones is the running back you have there. Don't feel great about the running backs outside of Swift. The receivers are great if once you get
Jetta
back.
That's what kills you is you need Jay Jetta's back, but he seems to be back next week after this bye. So if you can survive and win this week, your team's gonna get a shot of nitrous next week with Jay Jetta. So good luck. I think I want you to win this week because your team will be fun down the stretch with Njoku and Jay Jettas and
Agreed.
Fields and
Yeah, your team looks good. Just got to get through this week. If you can get through this week, your team is set to make some noise.
Make a little noise. Yeah. Those are my favorite kind of teams.
Exactly. Yeah. He said I tried moving Jones / Mixon. He's tried doing a bunch of big. Yeah, I don't think Allen will want to move with Allen for that. Yeah, Jones and Mixon are just average running backs, and Njoku's fine. Fields, I'd rather have Allen all day, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So. Sports spotlight rough. All right, last game here, real quick. Bengals Jags. I don't really have a question in the game, but obviously some good starts with Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne's fine if he plays. Obviously he's banged up. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, I'm fine with starting as flex options are better. Jamar Chase, I'm still fine starting him. Yep. Evan Ingram, sitting Zay Jones. Do you start T. Higgins if he plays? That's a big question, I guess. That's a big question in the game.
Not with Jake Browning.
He's not a flex option at least.
I mean, he is, I guess. Like if you're in a situation where you're talking about, am I starting
Noah Brown?
Yeah, right. Like if I'm starting Noah Brown with a healthy Tank Dell, I'm probably going T. Higgins at that point. Cooks. But I would take Brandon Cooks over T. Higgins. I would take Brandon Cooks tonight over risking T. Higgins not even playing. Or even if he plays being banged up, like I'm okay with taking that out of the equation.
Zach Charbonnet
or T. Higgins. that is the line, right? Like I'll take the guaranteed work of Zach Charbonnet. Yeah, but I mean I get it. I just don't think Jake Browning is the type of quarterback to be able to support multiple options as big options. We got lucky with a couple tip ball catches for Jamar Chase last week. Like it's just not pretty. So I don't think, I don't want 6 or 7 Jake Browning targets coming off injury for T. Higgins and think that it's going to be good.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely. I reckon's back again with another question here. You guys said my RBs are sketchy. Who can I move from Mixon and Jones for? Who else can I add the package?
No,
we don't like Fields or Allen.
No, I don't like
just
Fields.
That trade probably wasn't enough for you to get Josh Allen from the Josh Allen owner. I don't think those players are enough for the owner to want to move off of Josh Allen.
Mixon and Jones. Who could you trade Mixon and Jones for and try and? I mean, I think a name that would come up would be Devin Singletary. I think that's a name that you could, doesn't quite have the name value. You could pitch the narrative that Pierce is back.
Jerome
Ford's another good one. He's got a good playoff stretch, good matchups down the line.
Maybe Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, I think the game last week probably stunk to try and trade for him. But again, you could say, hey, look, they're going to Bailey Zappi. This team's in the tank. That's the type of player you got to look for. These guys who don't have because both of those guys, Mixon and Aaron Jones, have the name value. So you could kind of finesse this into like getting, someone of I think absolutely Devin Singletary is a good one. I think Rachaad White at this point, it's too late. He's been too good for too many weeks. Probably won't trade him at this point. But maybe. Jerome Ford,
Alexander
Madison's another good name to bring up. That's a good one. He's on bye week this week, so that's kind of rough.
But he's got good matchups down the stretch, so maybe he can start going now after his bye. He's got the Raiders, Bengals, Lions not that great, but Bengals, and the Packers in 3 of the next 4 weeks. Those are good matchups. Maybe he can get things going. So something like that. Again, they're fine. Mixon's fine as a 10-point guy, but Jones is hurt. I don't know what's going on with his situation. I don't know if he's been playing this week. So you're just leaving yourself in a lot of holes with these running backs here. So and Bengals offense isn't going to get better with So for Mixon. So
yeah, I just think that that's the problem is Aaron Jones is banged up. He's been banged up for weeks, and then Mixon is tied to the Jake Browning led Bengals right now, and so he's always been a touchdown kind of guy. Where Mixon that was his calling card. Is he's not going to have explosive plays, but he could have 1 or 2 touchdowns on any given week because the Bengals offense is crazy. But the Bengals offense stinks now. So you're taking away his touchdown upside, and he's not known to be a big play guy. Jaylen Warren, that's a name you could actually go look at too. You could go try and trade for Jaylen Warren. That's someone I'd be interested in. It's not pretty. It's in a split backfield, but he's got some juice. The offense looks better without Matt Canada there. He's just had a bad game. You could kind of spin that narrative to the manager there. I think that's kind of what you got to look for.
Agreed. All right. So we're going to wrap things up here for the night, guys. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you for all the questions in chat. We absolutely love it. Coach John, anything you want to say before we go on?
Nope. Thank you everybody who tuned in. This is always fun. I love Thursday shows. Please subscribe to the show. It's important to us. It means a lot. Also shout out to my friends over at Hogfish Harry's who gave me this sick hat. Nice. It's a cool bar. If you're ever in the Naples, Florida area, call me and I'll meet you there and buy you a drink.
Love it. Again, as always, guys, thank you for listening. A couple things real quick before we get going. Obviously, we do our podcast every Monday and Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk waivers and other things on Mondays. Thursdays we obviously talk starts and sits. We appreciate your YouTube. If you watch us over on YouTube, thanks for the subscriptions. We got one say. We definitely appreciate it. If you listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, we appreciate you guys as well. As always, please go check out. You can't really see it, but Parlay Play is we have a promo code with them. It's under John's head here. We have a promo code, $100 match bonus on your first deposit plus $5 for free. Coach D promo code Parlay Play. Sign up today and make some money. I've been on there. I've been playing on there. It's been a lot of fun. And of course, if you're looking for more fantasy advice, if you don't have outlets, you could talk to somebody on a one-on-one basis. I am partnered up with a company called Did It. They are more of like a live chat, one-on-one fantasy football talk. I've been using it a lot this year. It's been great. People show me their lineups. We go through it and we just go and get it done. It costs a little bit of money. I don't charge that much, obviously, very minimal, but we've helped a lot of people do very well in their fantasy leagues this year. So it's called Did It. It's an app. You can download it. So check that out, guys, as well. And that's really about it tonight, guys. We appreciate you all for listening in. We'll be back next week, guys, talking week 14.
How about them Cowboys? Let's go. Thursday night football, baby.
All right, guys. Take care.
Back to back is not far.